You're teaching people and showing them how to run the business by everything that you do and the way you act and the way you treat people. And the culture of our business was always very collaborative and from the first employee I had, I treated him more like a partner than an employee. And it comes back to you 100 times over.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello everybody, it's Neil Ball here. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey. The vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I'm so excited to bring you our special guest today, Dean Roberts. But before I introduce you to him, I just have a little bit of trivia for you. Hester Blumenthal said, "And I like asking questions to keep learning. People with big egos might not want to look unsure." The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we get the insight, inspiration and ideas to apply in our businesses. Dean, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
I'm ready. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Dean. Dean Roberts was born in 1939. He was expelled from school in 1956 and joined the Navy in 1957. He spent the next 40 years having 2 kids, 3 wives, building and operating Greenleaf Dollhouses.com. He loves reading, writing, travelling, staying fit, learning how to control his head and playing way too much poker. So now his plan is to write and help people see and actualize the many possibilities of life. Dean, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and personal life to allow us to get to know more about you and what you do and who you are?
When I got out of the Navy, I went to work in a family steel rule die business. My mother and father had a small shop in Brooklyn, New York. And I learned how to become a steel rule die maker. And for about 10 years, my father and I operated the business, just the two of us. And then we bought a die cutting press and I started to die cut different cardboard and plywood items. And from that, we designed a couple bird houses, bird feeders. And my mother and father retired around that time. And then we started making die-cut dollhouse kits. And I had one house that we started with. I went to a trade show and we sold a lot of them. It really got quite a lot of attention. So after just about 3 years later, we were doing about $4 million and showing our dollhouses all over the world. We had a line of about 18 different dollhouses. And we had become far and away the largest manufacturer of. When I say dollhouses, what I really mean is 1-inch scale buildings for miniature collectors. They mostly weren't for children. 1 or 2 of the smaller items were, but the greatest majority of our customers were women in their 40s and 50s that would assemble them, wallpaper them, electrify them, furnish them, shingle them. And we have on our website right now, there's a forum where over 20,000 pictures of our houses have been uploaded, a whole tremendous variety of different techniques of decorating and coloring, and so it was a real rush. It took place almost by accident. There was no plan about being a big dollhouse manufacturer. It just happened. A friend of mine made a sample, and then we took his drawings and made a sample. And but we did really charge into the opportunity when it became apparent.
Mm-hmm. And how much do your dollhouses sell for?
Anywhere from $15 to somewhere over $300. It's greenleafdollhouses.com. Anybody who's speaking can take a look at the houses as we talk.
Mm-hmm. So you still got that business, have you?
Well, I sold the business to my son and daughter about 20 years ago, or 25 years ago now, but they're still trucking away at it.
So what did you do after you sold the dollhouse business?
I took off. I bought a small trailer, and I spent several years just traveling around the United States and basically living by myself. I exercised a lot, practiced a lot of yoga, meditated, and wrote. And that's a part of what my book, I'll Fix My Head Before I'm Dead, is about. It's journal entries during that period of time when I was traveling around.
I notice I think it's the cover of your book, you seem to be sat in, is it the lotus position? Is that what it's called? I think it is.
It's called the Bound Lotus.
Yeah, that must have taken a while to get to be able to do that, because I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, I practice yoga pretty much every day for the last 35 years. When I first started, I couldn't even put my hands together behind my back. I was so stiff. I used to bicycle and lift weights, and I was in fairly good shape, but I was as stiff as a board. And that was the part of my physical fitness regime that was totally missing, and I really liked it. And I went to yoga retreats and seminars, and I really dove into it. And I think it's, from many aspects, it's a very important enhancement for life.
What do you enjoy most about what you do now?
Every day I feel a tremendous sense of gratitude. I've worked a long time to get there. When I was in my mid-20s, I was tense and depressed and angry and very overweight and out of shape. And I think that I came away from that almost one night. Actually, I woke up and I realized that I was going to be in an early grave if I didn't change my ways. And I stopped drinking and stopped smoking and started to study about health. But I think the most rewarding thing about my life is that I'm not beating myself up anymore. I get up and I feel grateful for the coffee and grateful for the books that we read together, and I just, from whatever particular activity of the day is, it just it goes smoothly, and I have this ongoing sense of gratefulness about having this opportunity of life and having it come out the way it has.
Mm-hmm. What is it that drives you now?
I feel a passion to share what I've learned. I think that most people are kind of missing out on the possibility of life.
Yeah. Okay. And how do you relax when you're not working in your business?
Well, I don't really work in the business. I go there. We have a health food store now. We bought it about 8 years ago, and my wife's son manages it, and I go there once or twice. I spend a lot of my time reading and exercising, and in the summertime being outdoors. Last winter we have a motorhome, so we traveled for about 3 months out in Southwest. I really have no schedule, and that's exactly. But I want to develop a schedule. I'm really very committed to sharing what I've learned. I feel such a sense of gratitude that I wish everybody could feel like that.
Mm-hmm. And how do you intend to share what you've learned?
Well, the book was the first small step.
Yeah. Then
I think these interviews, I would hopefully attract somebody that I could counsel with on a one-to-one basis. Mm-hmm. And I've joined the Toastmasters Club. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're international. Yeah, but every 2 weeks, you get an opportunity to make a short public speech. And I'm training myself in practicing public speaking. Mm-hmm. And that's one way to certainly reach and influence people.
Yeah, I do that. I actually go to Toastmasters, so it's...
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you might be able to stand up and talk in front of people, but it's something you have to... It's a skill, isn't it? It's something that takes time to develop. It's more complicated than it seems.
It is, because it's a psychological thing as much as a presentation and being preparedness and everything else, because so much in life is preparation. Yeah. And you can get really prepared, but if you still don't have if you feel very scared or tense, or it can really knock your presentation down. So it's getting used to being in front of people. I read somewhere that it's like a primal fear of screwing up in public. That it goes back to our tribal days, when being extricized from the tribe meant almost a death sentence.
Yeah.
So that this sense of belonging and being a part of and being accepted is a very basic primal feeling.
Oh, I've heard it said that people fear speaking in public more than they fear death. I don't know.
I've heard the same thing.
I do not know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard.
I've heard that. It certainly is true for some people.
Yeah, sure is. So, do you have any entrepreneurial role models? Is there anybody? Many. Right.
But I think the one, well, not exactly an entrepreneurial role model. Yes, I would say a role model. Yeah. Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich in the 1930s and 40s. And I had the great good fortune to be given that at a very early stage in my career. And it materially changed my progress and helped me understand the component parts of achieving a particular end. Mm-hmm. And his life was a role model for what I want to do now. He became a teacher, and he influenced millions. There's 25 million copies of his book been printed in many, many different languages. Mm-hmm. And it's like a roadmap. Yeah. So, and another model that is not quite entrepreneurial, but certainly has had a big effect on my life is Robert DeRope. He wrote a book called The Master Game. And it's been kind of a guidebook for me to learn about and to take control of my inner game, which is really, our outside is a reflection of what we can do inside, what we know and what are the skill set that we have. Yeah. And under his influence, I became a lot more peaceful and a lot more capable of being in the present.
Dean, what I'd like you to do is, can you cast your mind back to the time before you were an entrepreneur? And what I'd like to do is just tell us a few things. So, what difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business?
Oh, money. I was dirt poor. Mm-hmm. When I went to work with my mother and father, their gross sales were $18,000 that year. Yeah. We were poor. My father had dreamed about being in business his whole life, and in his 50s, he finally got up nerve enough to quit his job and start, and it wasn't going very well. Mm-hmm. The only reason I wound up there was because my mother really talked him into it. I wasn't doing much of anything after I got out of the Navy, and I guess she was worried I was going to wind up. I was doing something. I was smoking and drinking and hanging around with my friends, and it didn't look good. So under her pressure on my father, I started to work there. But for years, I struggled with money and no particular vision for the future. Mm-hmm. But then when I got Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, I read it and reread it, and I started to set goals, and things started to get better.
Mm-hmm. So how did you overcome the money problem then? Obviously you read the book. What is it you did to actually make things better? Work.
We made steel wool dyes, so I got more customers, and I worked at night, and I worked in the morning, and I came in on Sundays, and I just started to accumulate some money, and I was smart enough, I was smart enough, I guess, not to go into any new lifestyle changes with the extra money. We just started let it build up a little bit and get control of pay off some old debts,
Yeah. So you didn't play poker or anything then?
No, that started. After affluence came before poker.
And did you have any doubts that delayed you starting the business, or that delayed what you were doing there?
I think that there's always self-doubt, even now, that our biggest challenge is to overcome our fears.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would go to make a sales call, and I can remember standing outside of a factory for 15 minutes just trying to gather myself up to walk in and talk to the people.
Yeah, and then you get in there and find that they're not there.
Yeah, that's right. They're not there.
And you think, what was that about?
Or you walk in and they're so happy to see you. They show you around, and you leave with a couple of patterns to make a few sample dyes.
Yeah.
So I've had it go both ways.
Good. And what mistakes did you make that slowed your journey in your business?
Not being probably the biggest mistake I've made all my life was not studying enough, not realizing the breadth and depth of my own ignorance, and to develop skills and knowledge within the sphere of life, but more directly within the sphere of activity that I was functioning in. Read trade magazines, go to trade shows. There's a million things you can do to find out about your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think education's very important. And I think, I always believe that one of the biggest failings of education when kids go to school and things is that they don't tell you why you need to be educated, which to me seems like a basic thing. So people go to school and they think it's finished, it's over, I don't need to educate myself anymore, and they don't realise how important it is to continue it.
I had a very poor experience with the traditional government education. I failed a lot, stayed out of school a lot, and finally got thrown out. Looking back, I think that education, in today's world, education is to teach somebody how to read and write, and then get them to curious enough to find out what they want to do with their lives, and give them a iPhone. The whole traditional education system, I think, is going to come down like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it teaches people regimentation, do what you're told, stand up when you're told, learn a whole bunch of crap that you're never going to use in your life. I mean, so much of the things they waste their time on, kids learning and testing, all they got to do is ask Google if they want to know, if they have any use to know.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think there's other things that could be learned that they don't teach as well. That's the other thing.
Yeah, how to do 50 push-ups in 2 minutes, or something that'll really serve you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that you did before you started your business that would be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken the first step on the entrepreneur way?
One thing that I did that really was very important, and it has nothing to do with the business. I joined a kayak and canoe club. And actually, a friend of mine had belonged. It wasn't even a friend of mine, actually. It was somebody we used to rent a house from. And I went to a couple of meetings. They had meetings in the wintertime in a swimming pool area, and the novices learned how to roll a kayak. And it exposed me to a whole different group of people. All my friends were just idiots like me that either dropped out of school or were working stupid jobs. And they were doctors and they were lawyers and they were quite a professional class of people. And I really got good at whitewater kayaking. I used to go on these trips quite often. And that exposure to this whole other world of people and the proficiency that I gained quite quickly in that sport. So I was kind of even looked up to a little bit pretty early on, because clubs would sponsor a trip just about every weekend of the year. Even in the wintertime, we'd go kayaking down to some of the local rivers. Mm-hmm. And it gave me a sense of self-worth and I can do this. I can do this too. I wanted to make a place for myself amongst that group of people. Mm-hmm. So I started to really pay attention to the business and work a lot harder and set goals for myself. That's right around the same time that Napoleon Hill's book came along.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And can we just move to the entrepreneurial journey itself now, Dean?
Yep.
Can you tell me, do you think culture is important from the beginning in a business?
Oh, for sure, because people don't just do what you say. As a leader, you're teaching people and showing them how to run the business by everything that you do and the way you act and the way you treat people. And the culture of our business was always very collaborative and from the first employee I had, I treated him more like a partner than an employee. And it comes back to you 100 times over. Make people a part of it. This isn't my business. This is, in Italian they say cosa nostra. Mm-hmm. This is our thing. Mm-hmm. And let's make it as much as we can. Let's do it as good as we can. Mm-hmm. And it just get people thinking, They come in with ideas and changes. And give them the latitude to make decisions. Let them screw up. There's a story about the founder of IBM. He made a bunch of money and he hired a new president. And almost immediately, the guy made this horrendous mistake. It cost the company a couple of $1 million. And Watson called him into his office and he said, so the guy says, I guess you're going to fire me. He says, fire you? I just spent $2 million on your education. Why would I fire you? And that's the thing with help. Let them make mistakes. Don't act like you're perfect and they're stupid. You know, it's probably in many cases, in many things, it's the other way around.
Absolutely. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that if you'd known it when you started your business would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
Yeah, relax. Study, relax. Stop drinking. Stop drinking so much anyway.
Okay.
Those three things would have helped a lot.
And how much does gut feeling influence your decisions?
Too much.
Did it influence your decisions in business?
Too much even now. I have probably that's the consistent biggest mistake I've made in my whole career is to jump into things quickly. But by the same token, there's good in everything that you do. Some people analyze stuff to death, and the opportunity is come and gone before they get out of bed.
Yeah.
The upside of being too spontaneous and too operating by your gut is that you make a lot of mistakes. But by the same token, sometimes you jump into something that it's like a skyrocket. I once got a patent on a product called a puzzle postcard, and I just went right into it like insane. In fact, just the last few weeks, I was throwing away a couple of skids of old puzzle postcards that we weren't able to sell because the license expired. I made a bunch of money on that. We got a patent from the patent office and a license from the U.S. Postal Service, and we made millions of these puzzle postcards. And that was just almost complete dumb luck because I just jumped into it and kept making new samples and trying it.
Have you got an example of where you messed up with your gut feeling? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Oh, we had just a few years ago. I had a property near Cooperstown, New York, which is the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's a big thing in this country. So I designed and built within this warehouse, the Dollhouse Hall of Fame. I threw about 6 figures into that idea that was fizzled. The people staying right across the road. That baseball people that are interested in baseball have like zero interest in dollhouses.
Yeah.
And it was just way too fast, so, thank God I could live through it.
Mm-hmm. Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not. So many would say that the only constant in life is change.
I would say that's correct.
How do you try to keep up with change?
Gratitude. Gratitude is the answer to everything, whether it's a positive change or a negative change. Because once again, I go back to Napoleon Hill. He said, every adversity has the seeds within it of an equal or greater advantage. So if you like what's changing, that's great. Celebrate it. Mm-hmm. And if you'd rather have something else happen, then search through what's going on and figure out where's the blessing. What's good? What good can I take from this? What good will come from it? Or what good can I make of it? But change is I'm 76 years old. I've come into looking the Grim Reaper right in the face. What can I expect to live? Another 20 years?
I heard about someone the other day who was 113 years old in the UK. So.
113. Well, I said 100.
A long way to go yet.
I said 125 in my mind because my father always said he was going to live to be 85, and he didn't get much past there, and he died. And there was absolutely nothing wrong with him. I'm not sure his expectations killed him more than anything else.
A little thought for you here. You're talking about goals and things. I think you should have an age goal in your mind when you if you think about it. Why not aim for an age that you want to live to?
That's why I say 125. I mean, somebody did it. I've read a couple once. Somebody was 128 one time. That was pretty verified. So why not? I mean, I take care of myself. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. So what is your favorite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
Well, I think it's Think and Grow Rich, I think, is a bedrock book. I've read many, many other books, Success System That Never Failed and Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. And the work of Tony Robbins has been a tremendous influence on me. He's a very, very wise man with and a very positive way of presenting his ideas. I've listened to, I've subscribed to a lot of his tape programs and read all his books. W.C. Stone is another one. He's a very articulate speaker. Covey on his seven principles of success. Yeah. I've got hundreds of books on self-improvement and spiritual considerations.
Yeah. Okay, well, you've certainly given us a good selection there. And everyone, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time that you may be doing other things, such as driving your car or when you are at the gym. We have a special offer for you with a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you haven't already signed up, then you will qualify. Dean, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to throw your mind into the future a little bit here and talk about a few things. So what one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
I guess I'd borrow a whole bunch of money. I got pretty good credit, and I would I would hire a group of people and really go on a very intense internet educational / email / blogging assault on all of this stupid crap that the governments and the food companies and a lot of the people of the world are doing every day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
Speaking, I think, to really become a moving teacher of the skills people need to live comfortably. I guess the most important skill everybody needs is the ability to create their experience when things are going good, and then right in the heart of the of chaos and trouble, to still be calm and peaceful. Robert DeRope said, "By skillful means, one can learn to be comfortable even in hell." Mm-hmm. And that's what I'd like people more than anything else to learn, is that skill of creating wholeness and compassion and goodwill, no matter what's going on.
Okay. And in 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
This idiot kept learning and trying, and after a while, his ideas became important to more than his family and friends.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for that. We are now at the part of the show where you share 3 golden nuggets with us. So, Dean, what is your favourite quote and how have you applied it?
A long time ago, I read a poem by Robert Service called The Cremation of Sam McGee. Mm-hmm. And one of the lines in there goes, "A promise made is a debt unpaid." And I was probably 40 years ago that I read that. Yeah. And I said that, and I read it again, and I read it again. A promise made is a debt unpaid. My word is currency. I'm going to live by that. When I tell somebody something, I'm going to do it. And then if I don't do it, I'm going to say to myself, a promise made is a debt unpaid, and then I'm going to do it. And I'm also going to be careful, and this I learned over the years. This wasn't the first part that came with that, but I became almost pathological about doing what I say or standing by my word. Mm-hmm. And as I grew older, I realized I don't have to give my word to everybody. Be very careful, be judicious. But if you say you're going to do something, write it down, take it to the bank. It's that or death. Mm-hmm. And that is a personal. That's a personal asset. It's a piece of capital that works for you. When people, customers, or anybody in your life I got many referrals. I say, hey, this guy said you'll take care of this. You can do it, and he said you'll do it if you say you will.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's a personal asset that anybody can develop. I mean, you don't need a book, you don't need a chair, you don't need a car. You just treat that as sacred. Mm-hmm. Your word is your word, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And another one is from Ayn Rand. She's a fiction writer. She wrote Atlas Shrugged and We the Living and a whole bunch of other books. And she said somewhere along the way that live to the limit of your knowledge and expand your knowledge to the limit of your life. Mm-hmm. I spend an hour and a half every morning, reading a bunch of different books and writing. And because the more I learn, the more I realize that the only thing I know is that I don't know, and I'll never know, but I can always know more.
Mm. Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. I love that.
And the third one I mentioned before was Napoleon Hill's every adversity has within it the seeds of equal or greater advantage.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. And do you have any favourite online resources that you'd like to share that would be useful to us?
Well, I have a blog at it's boneyardexpress.blogspot.com. And I really like Tim Ferriss's podcast and Dave Asprey's podcast, and Lewis House are all great assets, because you mentioned before about listening to audiobooks when you're doing things or driving. Yeah. And I've got in the habit of having these podcasts on all the time, because the people they interview are on the cutting edge of everything, whether it's health or new thoughts about going to space. He had Elon Musk on, was interviewed about his private enterprise space company. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're a tremendous asset, and yours, and this one too. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to listening to your interviews.
Thank you. Well, that's great. And so, what is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
To get up in the morning and block out an hour and a half every single morning. That's your time. And study, exercise, meditate, and write. Journaling is a tremendously important way of self-discovery and of making yourself accountable. I'm talking about giving my word to other people. Mm-hmm. And I have done that pretty consistently throughout most of my adult life. Yeah. But I wimp out on commitments I make to myself. I mean, I'm pretty disciplined about exercise and diet and getting enough rest, drinking enough water, and I live pretty well. Mm-hmm. But I still let myself get out of commitments that I make. And that's in writing and journaling. And another thing, it's very amusing too. I go back and read journals that I wrote in the 80s and 70s, and I get a lot of laughs out. I was such a complete moron, things I did and the way I looked at things. But it was pretty consistently followed the same flow: a review of the day before, and to set out a fairly clear purpose for the day ahead. And the purpose for the day ahead, 95% of the time, was stay relaxed, stay calm, don't get depressed, don't get angry. All this is going to pass. Just do your best in whatever you do. Mm-hmm. But reading and writing that over the years reinforced that, and after a while, it started to work.
Mm. Someone said to me the other day, "Note takers are history makers." Which I thought, I like that.
Good line. Very good line. I got to use that one. Note takers are history makers. Very catchy. That's a good title for a book.
Well, it's not my line, but anyway, I don't know where it came from. Everyone, if you didn't manage to get a note of Dean's favourite resources or his favourite books, you can find the links on Dean's show notes page. Just go to theentrepreneurway.com and search for Dean or Dean Roberts in the search box. Dean, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
Well, my business primarily right now is building the resources within myself to step out into the world on a larger stage. So I think that it applies to anything that you're doing.
Okay.
Block out that time every morning. It's study, exercise. I don't think you can really be 100% optimize what the possibilities of any business or any life without really a high level of physical fitness and continual curiosity and education.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that.
That's a ticket to a full life.
Yeah. Dean, it's been an absolute honour having you on the show. You've really given us some great things to think about and some insight into being an entrepreneur, and you've inspired us all. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Your questions were really good.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter @Neil D. Ball.